Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is August, and welcome back to Youth Pastor Reacts. I'm a youth pastor, and today we're going to be continuing our Rush Beyond the Lighted Stage documentary. I think this is going to be the final part. Looks like we got about 40 minutes left. So, yeah, with that, let's go and dive right back in where we left off.
When I was 16 years old, I wasn't as emotionally open. I was very withdrawn. So something about that song allowed me to say, somehow this song is almost like it's written for me.
Music when you're growing up is like such a strong part of like, what do you like? What's your deal? What's your identity? Rush seemed to be just a complete added dimension of not being just obsessed with girls and hair and shit like that. You know what I mean? They seem to be kind of smart. And of course, fancying myself as a really smart kid, I was like, oh, that's my deal.
Not so clearly charted, it's really just a question of your honesty. Yeah, your honesty. Glittering prizes and endless compromises shatter the illusion of integrity. Yeah, doom. And when you're hearing like lyrics like that are so earnest and sincere, talking about honesty in art and asking some of the tougher intellectual questions with that great music behind it, they really offered something in rock that was in short supply.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, you guys were letting me know these guys are family men, right? And you can see it. I've seen it in this documentary. They're not like the normal, the usual, rock stars where, it's all about popping pills and getting girls and all that kind of stuff. They're about like family and good morals and just being honest, which is really cool to see. So 100% agree with that.
And plus, they sang in French. On Circumstances, plus
right.
c'est la même chose. That was pretty tricky. You didn't hear that on any Kiss records. It's like the dude is singing in French now. I can't even figure out his English.
It wasn't for everybody, and it wasn't necessarily cool. You were kind of like a Rush geek, a music nerd, a kind of nerd, and it was sort of nerdy music, I suppose.
Woo, subdivisions.
Growing up, it all seems so one-sided. Opinions all provided. The future pre-decided. Detached and subdivided in the mass production zone. Nowhere is the dreamer or the misfit so alone.
You listen to Subdivisions,
So good.
and it just seemed like exactly my life. I was that kid who was watching the car drive away with all the cool kids, going off to a party that I wasn't invited to. It was just nice to feel like there was a rock song out there that spoke to my experience, trying to be cool and worrying about being cast out of a group of friends if you weren't cool. I wasn't very cool, but luckily I had a group of friends that was equally not cool.
I lived in a housing development, suburbia, backyard barbecues, and a lot of the stuff that I think most American kids could relate to. I remember watching the video, and I'm like, damn, that represents me right there. This one person walking around, not really being in a group. It seemed like it was this person that nobody really could relate to.
The thing I
So
loved
good.
about Neil was he took very complex metaphysical themes and he was able to put them in a way that everybody could understand. And whether he was ripping off Shakespeare or he was quoting his own heart, he was able to do it in a way that never felt snobby or always felt like he was in the room talking to you.
Words can carry different freight for different people, of course, but those who do have the sensitivity to pay the kind of attention to lyrics that I put into them, it's wonderful to connect that way, to feel that you're not playing down to anyone. We've always had the impression that people are just as smart as we are, so if we can figure this stuff out, they can too, and we're not being that terrible damning word pretentious. We're not pretending anything. This is really what turned us on this year, Lyrically, it's always been a reflection of my times and the times I observe, but everyone is a reflection of me.
It's just so relatable.
We could have gone in and done moving pictures all over again. But we're too curious, we're too dissatisfied with where we're at, and just because we got successful doesn't mean we're going to stop. And that's the motivation. We have to find the better Rush.
There was a big shift happening on signals. The keyboards were becoming more and more important, from Geddy's standpoint, that is. And also, one of the biggest things at that point for me was Neil getting into the electronic drum kit. didn't really appeal to me. I wanted to still have that element of the basic acoustic band.
We'd been working with Terry for 10 years at that point, and we really felt the need to expand and see what it was like to work with other people. And it was a very tough transition because we were so close. Really, Terry was like the fourth member of the band.
It was Neil who broke the news to me on the bus, and he said, just think of it like a, boyfriend and girlfriend. They want to split up for a while and have a break from each other. I was surprised because I figured we would figure it out and we'd move to the next level. But it was time for a change. And I didn't really want to do an electronic band, which is where I thought it was going.
I know the wind comes rising across the cities of the plain. There's no swimming in the heavy water, no singing in the acid rain. Red alert, red alert.
To be honest with you, I'd never really heard of Rush in England. I was a pop producer, so I was kind of bemused when I got the call to come and produce them. I was coming from that whole British 80s music scene. I was trying to bring them into line with what I perceived to be the contemporary modern pop music, the new technology, the new keyboard sounds.
We all loved the music of that time. We were young enough to, and we didn't have any protective nature of what Rush was, that it could never be allowed to be influenced by new wave music or could never use an African rhythm. There was no such thing as that doesn't suit Rush. Those words have never been uttered.
Red sector, yeah.
Ragged lines of ragged gray. Skeletons they shuffle away. Shouting odds and smoking guns will cut down the unlucky ones.
So good.
Synthesizers and technology became a way of sparking your creativity. I liked it because my need to write melodies is more satisfied writing on a keyboard. As a songwriter, you're always looking for an angle to give you something fresh.
Coming from a trained keyboard background, you always felt kind of left out in the rock world because keyboards really weren't that cool. Rush was one of those bands that the way they started integrating synths seemed wildly exciting to me.
That was the first thing I noticed about Rush, was their use of the synth. I didn't even know what that was before I watched Tom Sawyer. I was so confused, but I love that sound. And I also love how he said, there's nothing that doesn't suit Rush. Like, they're not in a box. You can't box in Rush. They're not in, their own lane. They are so unique and so creative. They can just try whatever they want. Like they said, they were open to trying new things, and they weren't just trying to stick to what was necessarily popular at that time, but they were really just creative and making their own sound, which I think really contributed to their success and just their uniqueness and being able to stand out from really any other bands.
Wow, this can actually fill the role that what a guitar player would have done. Eats up the mid-range rhythm section space. I'd be hard-pressed to think of someone else who's done it like that.
Once the keyboards and the shorter songs became more of their sound, that's when I kind of moved on to other things.
I didn't like it, and I still really don't like it that much. And
Wow.
Geddy would spend a lot of time on the keyboard, and as a bass player, I love the bass. And so when my favorite bass player is playing the keyboards, I'm not that psyched about it.
Well, I love the idea of the keyboards. When we first started,
I didn't realize this was like a point of contention within the band where they wanted him to play bass, but he loved the keyboard. I love everything that Rush does, to be honest. So that's interesting to hear that, because I didn't really think about that.
I'm not that psyched about it.
Well, I love the idea of the keyboards. When we first started, I think as that part of our sound developed, there were times where we just got on the wrong track.
Alex and I had some real disagreements about how profound the keyboard should be. But Power Windows is a really important record because it was the final and essential blending of keyboards and guitar to me for Rush.
With Power Windows, I found it really, really difficult to work around the way the keyboards were developing. Why am I looking for a different place? I shouldn't be looking for a different place. What's going on with these keyboards? They're not even real. It's not even a real instrument.
The more we think we know about
just love the sound, dude.
We suspend our disbelief. We are not alone. Mystic rhythms capture my thoughts, carry them away.
You know, I love the synthesizers, and I actually think it's just as important as any of their other work. The ultimate thing that people were saying was they kind of moved somewhat away from the rock, and they kind of got a little bit more in the middle of what they did. To me, you know, Rush middle of the road is still somebody else's left field.
There's certain periods of Rush that are more universal than other periods. Now, you could say on the one hand that maybe they're better records. Maybe that's the best Rush. Moving Pictures got us into a much broader world of rock fans. And when there was a shift, we lost some of those people. But we realized after time that there was a core of our fan base that was as curious as to where we were going as we were. And those are the ones that have sustained us, you know, through all these years.
I will say, as a listener, I love when a band can progress and move in a good direction. Like, you know, what they're saying, they kind of moved from the traditional rock to maybe more synth and sounding a little different, stuff like that. But I love when a band can just have that level of progression to where they don't even know where they're going, but they're making new sounds as they go along, compared to a band that's just in their little box. Every song sounds the same, you know, they're not moving anywhere. I would much rather have what Rush is doing.
And I can't fault them for not wanting to be a prog rock band for another 15 years. They had different periods. That's what makes them interesting.
Right. What is this? What? Hold on, I've never seen this before. I gotta watch that again, yo. I gotta watch that again. What the heck? Wow. Time stands still. What the heck? What is happening, dude?
Hold Your Fire
Yo, I haven't heard that song, but I really want to check out that music video. That is hilarious.
was the record that told me that there was a shift in the way we were writing, was pushing us away from rock. It was starting to move into a jazzier, softer kind of tonal area.
Things can go too far in any one direction, and then we correct ourselves and eventually go, whoa, you know, we tried to go along this way, but it's too much.
That was the very first thing that I said on the first meeting. It seems absolutely crazy to me that one of the few remaining power trios on this planet, guitar, bass, and drums, are smothered in keyboards. And I said my interest is to get you back to being a power trio, but a modern take. We just find out what that contemporary definition of power trio really is.
Wow, people really didn't respect the keyboard. You know, people are saying it's like a fake instrument. I don't know, maybe it's a thing of the times, and I'm not, you know, I wasn't there during that time, but watching it now, like, you know, from now, watching it from back then, it's beautiful. Like, excuse me, I love the sound of the synth, the keyboard. I think it just really pulls it all together. I get that it's different from what they were doing, but I didn't realize this was such a point of like contention where people were really against it, man.
The definition of power trio really is.
Alex particularly wanted to assert guitar more as the dominant instrument and push the keyboards aside. And Getty and I would go, okay, we can do that.
Alex was pretty, let's have a concept, let's not have keyboards. And I went along with it. I was a little bit sad.
Press Down, Roll the Bones for me were very much indicative of what was going on in the 80s. And they were thin sounding records too. They didn't have any balls to them. So when I got in there, I was kind of hell-bent on making a heavy record.
The caveman pushed us, wanted me to use my Fender bass, go through old Ampeg amps and record it old school. Everything was old school. There were battles because every engineer wants Alex to play without his pedals and all his own synthesizers that he plugs into.
When Alex would ask for his fridge of effects and I would just say no, and he'd say, I want reverb, and I'd say no. And he'd say, I fucking want reverb. If I want some reverb, then I want some reverb. And I'm like, no, if you sound terrible with reverb, you're not having any reverb. So we ended up going to a bar that night and drinking about 5 bottles of scotch, had terrible hangovers the next day, but we sort of ironed it out.
We had a few drinks together. And I know what Kevin was going for, and he's right. Counterparts turned out to be the record that we envisioned when we first started working on it. The songs were thicker and more hair on them.
That record was a big turning point in reconnecting with the kind of rock and roll guts of Rush.
Come and save me. Animate me. Complicate me. Elevate me.
The opening song, Animate, I think is one of our all-time best. I love the drive of it, I love the arrangement of it, but I was starting to get conflicted about my own drumming at that point. I'd been working so much with sequencers and with click tracks for so many years, and I had developed really good precision of time. But I felt a stiffness because of that metronomic need. But I didn't have the looseness that I wanted to hear out of my own playing.
After so many years of being an amazing player, Neil could have clearly just decided not to play drums until it was time to go play a Rush show. But instead, he cared enough about what he did to try and break down his current technique and work with Freddie Gruber and sort of reinvent his playing style.
I was in New York doing a Buddy Rich tribute recording over that.
Okay, the Buddy Rich tribute recording. I need to get to that. I need to watch that. There's been a couple of you guys that have told me I need to watch Buddy Rich. I will get to that. It's in my reaction list. I really want to see that. So that's coming. That is on the way.
I was in New York doing a Buddy Rich tribute recording. Over that recording session in New York, I met Freddie and had dinner and got curious. What would it be like to study with a guy like that? And I had the time, so I thought, yes, I'm going to try this. It's not to make it sound easy, because when I studied with Freddie, I asked myself, can I really do this? Will I have the discipline? It's a huge commitment.
Can you tell me about when you met Neil and what your first impressions of him were?
He was easy, because he wasn't nuts. And I was, and it was like, it was fun. It didn't have to go to some strange land.
We never played the drums. We talked about motion and told a lot of stories and did some dancing.
We were behind a set of drums because the approach to what you do results in what you get. You understand?
Freddie is all about the motion, and it was all about the motion of the hands and feet that contributed to a dance. And one of the first things he did was stand up and do a little soft shoe dance for me and saying, when you're doing that, is that dance happening on the floor? No, it's happening in the air. So these were revelations to me to start thinking about not just the hit, but the motions between.
Time is linear. It's not, it's like a pogo stick, A lot of pop music is played like that. It's extremely vertical. It's like people slapping water when they swim.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Inefficient motion.
breathe. Let's put it this way. You can have a beautiful body and look marvelous.
Thank you.
But, but if you're not breathing, it's not alive. You know? So you got to at least put the breath in there, huh?
I can play a simple beat now, completely different from how I would have played that simple beat 15 years ago.
That's amazing.
Not that. There you go.
It takes a lot of courage, being a drummer of the stature that Neil Peart is, to be able to say, I can improve. And when he came back out and he made his appearances after working with Freddie and he turned his grip around to traditional grip and had a different approach, he was so much more relaxed. That was the most refreshing thing you could have seen, is that your hero could also still learn that they weren't just done.
That's so cool, dude. And that speaks to, like, you know, you can be like one of the best in your fields, but you can never stop learning, right? It's never like you get to a point where you're just like, I'm done. I can't improve at all anymore. You know what I mean? Like, no matter how proficient you are in your field, there's always more to learn. There's always ways to improve. You know, that's so cool to see that. And to see that there's so much more that goes into drumming than just making the sounds, right? It's about how you flow. It's about the motion, the dance that they're talking about. You know, we don't really, these are things that we don't really think about as viewers or listeners or anything like that. But as a drummer, that's everything, right? That shows your craft, the time, the effort you put into it, your passion for what you're doing. I mean, wow, that's really cool.
Could have seen is that your hero could also still learn, that they weren't just done.
And I worked with my bandmates right after that on the Test for Echo songs. And the other guys would say, well, it still sounds like you. And at first I was kind of disappointed, but then I thought, well, of course it does. They thought it sounded the same, but when they went to play with me, there was a different clock at work now.
Driven day and night in circles, spinning like a whirlwind of leaves, stealing in and out back alleys, driven to another den of thieves. It's my turn to drive, but it's my turn to drive, driven to the margin of error, driven to the edge of control, driven to the margin of terror, driven to the edge of a deep dark hole.
In mid-August of '97, we finished the tour earlier that summer, and there was a message to call the office. It was urgent. One of the girls from our office told me what had happened. Neil's daughter was in a terrible car accident, lost her life. I mean, it was just such a horrible shock.
It was, I mean, I still feel it today. It was the start of a whole lot of emotions that we'd never felt before. I had not had a friend who'd gone through anything like this.
Ray called me and told me about the accident. And I was just in shock, as everyone was.
You're just so unprepared for how devastating it is. And you just don't know what to do or how to help or any of that.
He could be such a private guy. And when news like this hits, you don't want to do the wrong thing. You don't want to try to comfort them and find out that you're only just comforting yourself.
Everything to do with the band ended at that moment. It just didn't seem important. It was not something you even thought about thinking about.
They didn't really know what to do with themselves, so they left Toronto. They got away from all those reminders. And then Jackie got sick. After she passed away, he was lost. And so he ran, he got on his motorcycle and ran.
When his wife died, he had to do what he needed to do to just find some kind of peace. He embarked on a long, very, very painful journey, just going and going and going and going.
Yeah, everybody was so worried about me. And in fact, there was a network I know among my friends and loved ones. Oh, I heard from him today. You know, I got a postcard, or he called. You know, they would all reassure each other. Because, yeah, anything could have happened to me, even by accident, let alone by design.
Fuck, we were so worried about him. But he, you know, he was at arm's length.
Neil needed time. To be honest, I had no real interest in music for about a year. I hardly played, hardly listened to music.
We were on sabbatical. We were shut down.
Basically, we're talking about a journey that stretched 55,000 miles, starting from Quebec and going up to the Arctic and around Alaska and out Mexico, across all of Mexico, from Baja across the whole Mexican mainland down to Belize. I go to the small towns and the back roads, generally stopping for the night in motels along the way. And I don't think in that whole 55,000 miles, I don't know if I was ever recognized once in a little town in a gas station or a motel or a diner. Because I'm just a guy sitting there with a hat on reading the book, you know? A lot of times I can just slip around and be a guy, and that's all I want from traveling, too. I just want to be a guy, and that's life enough for me.
Before before we continue this, I will say there is something about going through like a tragic loss or going through just a really hard time in life and just hitting the road. Like I don't know what is so just moving about that, but just going for a drive, especially, him on his motorcycle for 55,000 miles is crazy. But dude, that just does something for your soul. Like just get out of where you are, escape the environment, go for a drive. There's something so healing about that. So I can totally see, um, I can totally see why he would choose to do that.
Travel has always been known as a soothing balm, and even motion from the time we're little babies, we want to be rocked, and if a baby's crying, you can take it for a drive in the car and it calms down. That's the way I described it to myself at that time, that I was so stirred up into my little baby soul would only be soothed by motion.
Yeah.
I traveled out of the darkest place a human being can come from, and it was landscapes, highways, and wildlife that revitalized me. The timeless landscapes gives your tiny existence a new perspective when you're among things that are millions of years old.
I remember getting postcards from him from wherever, and he was using different names. We have like about 6,000 nicknames for each other. So I would get a postcard with that nickname on it, so I knew who it was from. They were lifelines, those little contacts. And he knew we were there somewhere, and he knew that we would be there if he wanted us to be there. All he had to do was reach out.
As far as the band was concerned, as things went on, it seemed less and less of a possibility that we would get back together, and it looked like the band was basically, it was 4 years that the band was done.
Oh, I thought it was over. Alex and I would talk about it once in a while, but there was no point. I don't want to play in Rush without those other two guys. There's no replacing anybody in this band. It's just not possible. It is the band, the three of us, Even though he's the new guy, he's just as important.
Those two guys were the most stable thing I had, my family and loved ones, and those that dared to stay around me through that time. And so hard that, I would have walked.
My concern was just that he would be okay. And I thought it was pointless to think about it beyond that. After, I don't know, a year and a half, whatever, 2 years, I sensed that he would do it again, that he would be okay. I don't think you work that hard to be what most people consider is the best in the world at something and not go and do it again one day. I didn't know if it meant that it would take 5 years or 10 years, but I thought that one day he'd have to do that again.
Stopped writing, I was ready. Traveling all that time. It was when I came to rest, and I came out to California and met my wife-to-be, and I got some stability there, and with Carrie's help, then realized that I was wanting to work again. That's basically what it took. I had to stop moving first.
He was a little apprehensive and thought that perhaps maybe we might try to talk about perhaps trying to maybe think about possibly getting back in the studio to record a record. And it was really like that. It was quite a fragile, delicate proposition.
I don't think he knew if he could do it. He hadn't played his drums in a hell of a long time. He's such a perfectionist, such a fucking monster musician. I think he was afraid of not being as good as he once was.
It was an unsureness for me, especially. Can I do this? Can I write rock lyrics like it's the most important thing in the world? Can I slave over and over and over on a drum part to refine every detail of it like it's the most important thing in the world? I don't know.
We basically booked the studio 7 days a week for 14 or 15 months. Everything had so much weight to it, and for him to get back his chops was really a slow process.
I could hear my state of mind in my drumming. Anger, obviously, but confusion. That the state I was in, and it's in the lyrics too, of course, so many of them had to deal with. You know, I could not sidestep all of that stuff.
But there was something that was so pure and truthful about the energy on Vapor Trails. It really is a representation of that time, of the coming back of the band.
Coming back to the stage is way more difficult, because also that's the essential existence of a band, is on a stage. I've come back to that many times, and one of the things that keeps me from quitting touring all the time is that's what a band does. So coming back to the stage was the biggest recovery possible.
Thank you. And good evening. Hartford, United States of America, nice to be back here. It's been quite long enough, I think.
That was in Hartford, Connecticut on the Vapor Trails tour, and it was such a dramatic thing after all this that we'd gone through, that here we were at our first gig back on the road, and we never even thought we would work again.
I think it was one of the few times we've had a group hug before the show.
That's sweet. That's really sweet.
It wasn't lost on us that getting to that point was almost impossible. So, you know, we kind of looked at each other, gave each other a hug, and said, okay, let's go. The crowd was amazing. They welcomed us back, really warm. And Neil was really nervous. So I figured my job is to go over there to make him not nervous. So I kept checking on him, throwing him some shapes to make sure he was smiling or laughing.
That's what that night was like. I was completely folded into the job of performing, but there were just moments when the three of us connected visually, and we knew what we were doing. And I remember saying to Ray afterwards that it would have been a shame if that never happened again.
It was amazing. And it was amazing to see how happy he was after the show. There were some demons were gone that night.
Part of the rebirth of the band was suddenly a willingness to go where we hadn't gone. And to see these legions of fans, it was such a positive effect on us. It was like, okay, this is a second chance for us to go back out and play some new places.
Come on now. Dude, that crowd is moving, dude. That's so cool.
We had no idea going to Brazil of any popularity that we might have. And then the Sao Paulo show was 60,000
Wow.
people. I mean, by far the largest audience we singularly have ever played to. There was a sense of wild, tumultuous, impossible masses of people, but so locked in a unified way that it was just magical. We elevated.
That's cool.
Having gone through that whole tour, being in this place where we had people going totally mental, playing one little victory. It was a huge victory that we'd survived the previous 5 years. Finishing on such a high note was quite a trip.
The newness of touring was over, and I think we had successfully returned.
Dang, that's cool.
Oh yeah! A modern-day warrior named Tom Sawyer. He floated down a river on a raft with a black guy.
What?
Hold on, stop! Those aren't the right lyrics, fat ass. I am Geddy Lee, and I will sing whatever lyrics I want.
There's a lot of people who were 18 in 1978, guys who were crazy Rush fans. They're in positions of relative power now. They're raising their hands and going, yeah, I want to be on this bandwagon now. I always was there. Now they had the ability to actually bring it to more people than ever before.
My guests tonight have 24 gold and 14 platinum records. Wow. Please welcome Rush! Geddy, Neil, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Pleasure. I just want to remind everybody that this is your first appearance on American television in 33 years, correct?
I think one of the greatest things to happen to the collective community that has very much enjoyed Rush for many years was their appearance on the Colbert Report, because I've seen these guys get beaten up by this supposed cool people for a long time. And then in one fell swoop, Stephen Colbert puts them on their show and gives them the hand of coolness.
You're known for some sort of long songs. Have you ever written a song so epic that by the end of the song, you were actually being influenced by yourself at the beginning of the song? Because it happened so much earlier in your career. You are yet to be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Is there any chance your next album will be called...
Okay, speaking of which, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I know that they were inducted. I haven't watched it yet. I will watch it. I've got so many things to watch. So that is coming as well.
Inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Is there any chance your next album will be called That's Bullshit?
You could get into the sociological and cultural reasons why a band like Rush was publicly marginalized. And you could say, what was it? Was it they were too weird, Geddy's voice? I like to think that at the end of the day, people will step back and all those labels fall away because the body of work is significant. To me, they remain one of the top bands in the world.
For sure.
Now, whether some guy at Rolling Stone decides they are or not is completely irrelevant. Because at the end of the day, rock is a people's game, and the people have generally and consistently voted for this band.
Yeah. There's a generation of rock critics that have kept them from being in Rolling Stone and from being a part of that conversation. They were on the other side of this divide that we're talking about back when they were held in corners by Rush fans at parties going, but you don't understand, and they really liked Elvis Costello or they really liked David Bowie or something that was a little more critically accepted. And now it's kind of like we're all so old that even if you hated Rush in the 80s and 70s, now you gotta give it up for them. You just got to.
Yeah.
Or else you're just being an old dickhead.
I think that in many ways you're served better if you're not quite as successful. If you never become a pop star, if you don't have top 40 hits, then what you have is kind of a pure memory for people. They don't think you ever sold out.
Yeah.
Virtue is actually rewarded, I believe.
I agree. I agree with that, for sure.
The thing with us is we've always walked along the shore of the mainstream, and we've been attached to it and connected ourselves to it time and again, but we've always been a little bit outside of it.
We had our own stream. And it wasn't the main one, but it was not too far away from the main one. I always like to consider us the world's most popular cult band.
The Rush fan, while it's a stereotype that it's like mostly guys who like heavy metal, there are many devoted female fans. It's kind of like a giant club. People turn on their kids to Rush, who turn on their kids to Rush.
It's just amazing that the music's been able to go from this generation to this generation, and even a younger generation. You know,
their fans have stuck with them through all of it. All their shows are sold out still. I mean, when Snakes and Arrows came out in 2007, it charted really well for quite a while, and it was some of the biggest shows they've ever played. It's just amazing for them to come back really strong like that. It was just like, it took off. It took off again all of a sudden.
It seems like they're bigger now than they've ever been, which is fantastic. There's a comfort in knowing that those same three guys are out there. And it's also spectacular to see three guys that can tolerate each other for all these years and still make music, make good music.
How many more times?
Hey, Derek, here's that thing you ordered. It arrived today, this thing you ordered.
Thank you, Lurch.
That's right.
It's that special thing.
Can you turn that off while I use it?
The Three Stooges all at once.
They're just such a unique and weird concoction. And I get the sense, and I always have from Rush, that they're on a righteous path. There's something there that's really pure, sincere, and honest. At the root of all of it, it's also really good, you know? That matters more than anything else.
There's a magic and a coolness to them that continues to this day, and that's a testament to the music's power. I mean, that's how you know. It's the only way you know. You check in after 25 years. Is it still resonating? Yeah. It's the only true test. Test of time.
All right, shall we?
Now?
What now?
You mean now?
You mean right now?
Now?
I can't go on now. I've got things to do.
That was really good.
Maybe you could tell us where we're going tonight.
We're going to meet with Neil. We're going to talk about stuff, I guess. Drink some local wine.
Will there be any discussion of the next steps for the band?
Well, we don't really want to hang around with the guy. So, yeah, we'll talk about that stuff. This is just a business meeting.
Do we have business meetings?
This is the first one.
This will be your 24th record? What's the motivation to keep doing it?
Chicks.
Okay, I call this meeting to order. Very. I call this meeting to order.
It's so great to
Dinner with Rush.
It tastes fantastic, and it makes you feel funny.
Didn't I ever tell you that Lurch was a genius?
You never had to tell me.
He's a genius.
He manifests it every single day.
Why don't we write some songs?
Right now. Let's start.
I got a notepad here.
He's a
Oh,
writer.
you're going to
He's
write some
writing.
lyrics?
I can write things down.
What I thought was that
What if we
Lurch
were
and
doing
I...
something on the Frankenstein
that
thing
was
that we were
close.
just talking about? Like the life of Frankenstein.
A concept album?
Inspiration here. If that's a bolt.
Hey, yeah.
Perfect.
You know something? You got a couple bolts.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's a miracle, really, so we've ever had a conversation.
Let's not start now.
You know what they say about if you put 100 monkeys in a room with typewriters, that they'll eventually, produce the works of Shakespeare.
Who's gonna clean those typewriters?
We're getting into a weird area here.
Monkeys, defecation.
I don't know you anymore.
Oh, I
It's like
understand.
working with a whole new person.
This relationship is...
I'm so sick of you guys. I just feel really
This is really helpful for me.
Yeah. This is
I'm working
fantastic.
through something emotionally,
Yeah, me too.
psychologically, and this
Yeah.
really helped me.
Yeah,
a lot.
and I quit the
thank you.
fucking stupid band.
Okay, take your smokes and go then.
As soon as I can get over there, I'm gonna rise to my knees and kick your ass.
Rise to your knees. That
That'll
sounds
be-
like the new Rush album
That'll
title.
be the day. Oh my God, we are geniuses.
We're gonna do Hockey Nights in
Hockey,
Canada
hockey,
song
hockey.
with the drum solo with the Latino stuff in it. Boy, that's gonna be one.
Can't wait.
That's the next album, guys. We've got it sorted out.
Okay,
I think we've been successful in destroying these people's film. I will remind them that I said you would regret it. You said
I just
that?
wanted to say that.
I said, don't be surprised when you discover how boring we really are.
I did, but I did.
Cut!
That was good. Dang, that was really good, dude. I'm glad I watched this. Thank you guys for recommending me check this out. This was cool. I gotta learn a lot more about the band members, how they form, kind of their origin, and then really just taking the trip all the way throughout. And I don't know when this was filmed. I think this is, yeah, it says 2010, so maybe 2010, 2011. But yeah, that was really good. That was really good. Got some good insight on the different band members and also the time in which they were making their music and what was kind of popular at that time and the different points of tension and problems that arose and how they got through that and all that stuff. So that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. There are some more like interview stuff and other things I want to get to as well regarding Rush. There's some recent interviews that just came out like literally a month ago with Rick Beato. So if you guys want me to check out those interviews, there's one with Getty, Alex, and then Annika Niles, the new drummer. There's one with her as well. So yeah, if you guys want me to check that out, let me know down in the comments, and then I can possibly pull that up. They're like hour-long interviews, so maybe 2 separate parts each. But yeah, this is really good time. I really enjoyed it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you liked, please be sure to like. And yeah, any other recommendations, any other suggestions, comments, thoughts, anything else, please leave them down in the comments. But yeah, hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.